Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the City of Northport Mobility and Connectivity Study online open house. The purpose of this meeting is to kind of give everybody information on what the study is, where it stands, as well as information on the proposed mobility fee schedule. Joining me, we have Charles Hines, and we have our consultant from ESRP Corporation, Alex Anaya. With that said, I will take a back seat, kind of fade to black, and moderate discussion a little bit. Let Alex and Charles take over. If you have questions, go ahead and use the raise your hand feature or use the chat, and we will try to address your questions as they come up. So that said, Charles and Alex, I will let you guys do your thing.
Okay, thanks, Billy. Charles?
Okay. Alex, I apologize. I'm getting a repeat back and forth. It's being like repeated twice. So I'm going to say this and then be quiet. I can't figure this out. But welcome, everybody. Thanks for doing this. Your input's incredibly important. The city of Northport to make decisions in regards to how it proceeds with its mobility fees. And, we got a great study here that Alex spent a lot on. And we look forward to making a presentation to the city later this month with all of them.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alex Anaya. I am with ESRP Corporation. ESRP is the prime consultant leading the City of Northport Mobility, Connectivity, and Mobility Fee Study. We would like to thank you for taking the time to attend this meeting. This is a great opportunity to discuss important aspects of the project and relevant information that we want to present to you. So ESRP was retained by the city to perform the study. We started work in late 2020, presented some preliminary results to the City Commission in June 2021. We also conducted an analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This was also conducted in June 2021. We also held a public meeting, an open house format meeting in July 2021. There was very few attendees. There was actually no attendees from the general public to that meeting. So because of that, we designed an online survey and collected data during August and September 2021. We presented a preliminary mobility fee schedule to city staff in August 2021, and later received a request to modify the mobility fee schedule in order to make it match to the land use categories that were being used for a recently completed impact fee schedule. This was in September 2021. After that, we presented the fees. There was some discussion, and as a result of those discussions, we updated the preliminary mobility fee schedule in November 2021 and also in January 2022. So we recently, just last month, updated the proposed schedule, and this is what we are going to be presenting today. The main purpose of the study is to produce a citywide plan that satisfies mobility and connectivity needs of all City of Northport residents and visitors, while helping to improve public health and quality of life. As part of our work in this study, we looked at existing conditions. We analyze existing conditions and map the existing conditions and so on. We also looked at future conditions. You know, one of the key tools that we have or that we use for our analysis is the District 1 regional planning model. This is a model, it's a travel demand model, which is also known as the D1 RPM. So we use this to forecast future traffic conditions and so on. So here is some of the data that we got from the model. We also looked at adopted and proposed plans, and we mapped everything to make sure that everything was consistent. We also looked at connectivity and accessibility and safety. So in these pictures here, you can see some connectivity issues. On the left side, for instance, there are some sidewalks that come to a place where they stop and there's no continuation of sidewalk. So we intend to solve that connectivity issue so that pedestrians can continue walking and reach destinations. On the right side, we see a road that stops because there is a canal. So that road cannot continue because there is a canal. That is also a connectivity issue. And we looked and tried to solve some of those issues within the city. With all the data that we collected and we performed an analysis of future conditions. And this figure shows here the level of service for the future condition. This is for forecasted for 2045. So as you can see in this picture, most of the city has level of service D or better, which is a positive thing, because level of standard D is this the B is the less congested. D is the standard of the city, so is let's say the maximum congestion that the city allows. And pretty much the whole city is D or better. There are some links that are level of service F, but these links belong to the county, to Sarasota County, or to FDOT. With all that information, we put together a concept plan. We call it the multimodal mobility and connectivity concept plan, which included recommended improvements, as well as strategies or initiatives to improve mobility and connectivity, and also included recommendations for strategic land acquisitions. So we are going to elaborate a little bit more on that in the following slides. The concept plan also was divided into three phases, what we call project prioritization. So we had a short-term phase from 2022 to 2026, which is 5 years, and a mid-term phase from 2027 to 2034, which is 8 years, and a long-term phase from 2035 to 2045, which is 11 years. Here we see the proposed plan. So this plan includes a lot of improvements, different kinds of improvements to improve connectivity and mobility throughout the city. Since the roadway capacity analysis showed that the capacity of roadways was not going to be the main issue in the future. So that was an opportunity for us to focus on multimodal improvements, such as shared use paths, bicycle lanes, sidewalks, and improving this type of mobility within the city. Our analysis also included the roadways that are being constructed within the Welland Park part of the city, that area of the city. These roads are included in an agreement that the city has with Welland Park and are being actually constructed by the developer. The city also had some CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan projects that they wanted us to include within the plan. These are basically widening of Price Boulevard. So there are 3 phases. There are 2 phases that are known to most people, and there is a 3rd phase that will come in the future. So our analysis also included those improvements as part of the overall mobility plan. Here are some of the proposed pedestrian facilities. These are actually the proposed pedestrian facilities that we that we have in our plan. Some of the connectivity for pedestrians is going to be achieved using shared use paths. So as you see in the legend, a lot of the thick lines depict shared use paths, which will serve not only for pedestrians, but also for bicyclists and other types of users. These are proposed bicycle facilities. And again, this includes some of the shared use paths, which will serve for pedestrians as well. This map shows proposed shared use routes. So as part of our analysis, we realized that the east-west connectivity within the city was interrupted by canals, and leaving basically Price Boulevard as the main east-west corridor. So providing connectivity between neighborhoods and building bridges to be able to cross those canals and creating routes that can be that can provide alternatives to move east-west, north of Price Boulevard and south of Price Boulevard was a good idea. So we conducted an in-depth analysis, and we found areas where these connections could be provided. So here is a picture that shows, this map shows more in detail what we were trying to do. So basically building bridges and some connecting links to be able to cross the canals, and then using existing roads that will be designated as low speed facilities so that people can move using bicycles, micromobility devices, walking, and so on. So here we see different examples of this. Here, because of that, so some parcels will be needed to construct the links and some of the bridges and so on. So this brings us to the topic of a strategic land acquisition. So the picture on the left shows a situation where we may have a partial land acquisition, where we impact just small portions of parcels. The picture in the middle shows 2 parcels that are impacted completely. So this will be probably full acquisition. However, one of these parcels belongs to the city. The parcels in yellow are private parcels, and the ones circled in purple are owned by the city. So, and then the picture on the right shows an ideal situation where both impacted parcels belong to the city. These shared use paths that we are proposing, we have, there are some examples in Florida. Here there is an example in Tarpon Springs. This is an asphalt shared use path. The other one is in Safety Harbor. This is the surface is concrete for this one, and the road here has curb and gutter. The one in Tarpon Springs is flush shoulder. But, 2 examples of the types of shared use paths that can be constructed. These are other examples of shared use paths. Here we mapped the crosswalk locations because by providing shared use paths throughout the city, there will be a lot of intersection with existing roads, and that will trigger the need of crosswalks. Crosswalks will be needed, so we mapped the crosswalk locations because there will be many. Here is a closer look at the crosswalk locations. Here is an example of the crosswalk design. So some crosswalks could be standard crosswalks, like the one on the left. But at certain locations, a special crosswalk design will be needed. So what you see on the right is a special crosswalk design that we put together for a DOT project. In a similar way, we also propose roadway routes, or what we call new roadway routes. And the concept was to also build some bridges that can be also used by vehicles. So at certain locations, we also identified routes that can be followed by regular vehicles, and then there will be bridges that can support vehicle traffic over some of the canals. So these are the routes that we came up with, and the green dots are the bridge locations. So here is a similar example of the roadway routes and the locations. Here is a close-up of an example where we have a bridge over a canal. We have the connecting link over an existing parcel. We have another connecting link here on a property that belongs to the city. And in this specific case, for instance, the adjacent parcel also belongs to the city. So this provides opportunities for ancillary facilities, can be for parking, even bathrooms or things of that nature. Here is a map that shows the future land use and the proposed plan. The red areas are the activity centers. So here we see that the plan basically provides connections throughout the city and also connects all the activity centers, which is a very important thing to achieve. Now, the cost of the plan. To estimate the cost of the plan, we looked at different types of improvements. We estimated the unit cost for sidewalks, bike lanes, improved shoulders, shared use paths, the shared use path connecting links, the crosswalks, and so on, all the elements. Also, we estimated the cost of land for the strategic land acquisition, as I mentioned before, the full parcel acquisition and partial acquisition. And the sources we used for these were the City of Northport data. They had actual construction cost for recent projects, and also the city provided cost estimates for some of the projects like Price Boulevard. We also use the long-range estimates from FDOT that provide cost per mile. They have cost per mile models that were used for our cost estimation. And we also use the FDOT structures manual. For the cost of land, we used Zillow.com, and basically we did some research, found the price of different parcels, and we computed an average price. In terms of project prioritization, I already mentioned this before. So we had this, and with all these elements, we came to the estimated cost of the plan. So the city requested us to create two scenarios. One scenario includes all the improvements that we considered, and the second scenario included everything but the phase 3 of Price Boulevard. So that is a project that they have in the radar, but they wanted to see what would be the fee with and without that project. So the first estimated cost for all improvements is scenario 1 and came to $531 million. Without Price Boulevard phase 3, the estimate will be $432 million. We also use the travel demand model to estimate the growth in vehicle miles of travel, which this is an indication of how the growth, the expected growth within the city. So these are the numbers which were used in the calculations. The methodology that we use to calculate the impact fees is summarized here with these equations. And then we used the same land use categories of the mobility fee schedule that was recently developed for the city. So this was a request of the city. So we developed we developed mobility fees were developed for the same categories, for the same land use categories, which are shown here. This is the person travel demand. These are the trip generation rates that we use based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers. And here is the proposed mobility fee schedule for scenario 1. So following the methodology that I showed, we calculated the impact fees and we came up with these suggested mobility fees. There is a suggested mobility fee percentage increase here. And you see that we have 50% or less increase for all categories. The reason behind this is that the maximum increase, or the desirable maximum increase, is 50%. So the calculated fees, some of them came above 50%. So what we did is we capped them at 50%. And doing that, we came up with the suggested mobility fees, which are the ones that you see in green here. The existing transportation impact fee schedule has many more categories, has like 53 land use categories. And the mobility fee schedule that we are developing now only has 17 categories. So it is not a direct comparison between the two, but we found the most similar land use categories to make that comparison. So here you see the existing transportation impact fee versus the suggested mobility fees. The term, you see OAC and AC here. OAC means outside activity centers, and AC means within activity centers. So the logic behind this is that the rates for within activity centers are lower because the city would like to encourage development within activity centers. So the regular fees are the ones under the OAC column, outside activity centers. So these will be the regular fees. For scenario 2, we have a very similar situation. Now the fees are lower because we took a big project. It's estimated the cost is $98 million for Price Boulevard phase 3. So without that project, we came up with these fees, which is same concept, but these are the fees. So these are two scenarios that we will be presenting to the City Commission for them to make a decision on which schedule they would like to adopt. Here in this slide, we see here is a comparison for scenario 1 between the suggested mobility fees and the fees in Sarasota County and Hillsborough County. So again, this is not a direct comparison because the mobility fee schedules for these jurisdictions are different. They have, a different structure. So comparing them is not that easy, but we put together this table here that allows to, make a comparison that is not perfect, but gives an idea of the fees. So the regular fee in Sarasota County, for instance, you see it goes up to $5,300 for single family, for instance. Ours is between $4,400 and $5,100, for instance. Now in Hillsborough County, it goes all the way to $8,400. So, somehow with this type of comparison, you could say that the suggested fees maybe somehow, in some ways, maybe similar to Sarasota County, but probably lower than Hillsborough County. So, but again, this is not a direct comparison. So this is for scenario 1. Now this is for scenario 2. Basically, the fees would be lower. The suggested mobility fees for the city would be lower under this scenario. Okay, now the next steps are the following. In March 8th, there will be a presentation of the mobility fee schedule to the City Commission. And then if everything goes well, or according to the plan we have now, in May 10th, there will be, on May 10th, excuse me, there will be first adoption hearing. And on July 26th, there will be a second adoption hearing. So this is what is coming next. And with that, we can have some questions, or Charles, if you want to add something.
Thanks, Alex, appreciate it. Gentlemen, give me a minute and then I want to circle back to you all and get your input. I apologize about the beginning. I figured out I had 2 open windows and I was getting a loop and I could barely hear what was going on, but I'm good now. So basically my role in this is to kind of assist the city in taking the input from you all and summarizing that and be part of the presentation on March 8th. Not really advocating one way or the other, but be able to give your input. As I think you all know, my experience comes from Sarasota County when we switched from transportation fees to mobility fees. And I think all of you all are used to mobility fees through the jurisdictions, that various ones that you work in. So I see kind of 3 questions. You might see some more as we discuss, but 1, are you in favor of mobility fees? Do you like them over transportation fees? That's a question. Yes, no, maybe. 2, obviously, as Alex has laid out, the cost, the fee that's going to be charged. Do you like what he's presented? Is it too high? Is it too low? What do you think about that? And then 3, the plan, the use of the money. Do you like those ideas? Yes, no, maybe. And so if we can get some input from you all, Obviously you're welcome to come to the meeting on the 8th and give your individual input, but I'm going to try to do my best to summarize your all's thoughts and input from this presentation to you all.
Thank you, Charles, and I can hear you perfectly.
All right. Todd, I don't know, Todd, I see you on there, not to put you on the spot, but the last couple meetings I hadn't seen you. Do you have any thoughts or input? You guys are a big player now in the Northport area. Do you have any thoughts on the presentation?
Thanks, Charlie. So I just got the microphone. Well, I guess we haven't been watching this too closely, or too engaged. So just for my knowledge, has the city commission made a policy decision to definitely take over its collection of either transportation or mobility fees, or is that still in question?
Do you mean the collection or the switch to mobility fees?
Yes. Well, they collect, but Sarasota County uses the cash, right? They administer the program.
That's my understanding.
So I guess my question is, has the city decided it actually is going to do this, or are they evaluating that question, that they're going to switch to mobility fees, retain the collected mobility fees, and spend the mobility fees, or is that up in the air?
My understanding, this is the debate of whether to switch from currently the transportation fees to mobility fees. I'm not sure how it's going to be administered. I don't know if Northport staff can answer that on how, if it's going to be collected and flow up to Sarasota and come back, or if they're going to do it directly themselves. I'm trying to remember. City of Venice, I think it's their charge, but it goes into Sarasota County and then comes back. Can somebody help me with that one?
If I may, I think the intention of the city is to collect the switch to mobility fees, and they will collect the mobility fees.
And retain and spend the mobility fees.
Yes, and the main reason to have mobility fees instead of transportation impact fees is that the transportation impact fees can only be used for capacity improvements in connection with roadways.
Right, I understand that. So I guess my overarching thought is we like mobility fees. I think the number, no one is directly responsible for this, but the city is in no position today to start retaining those dollars and spending them from a staff infrastructure perspective. I mean, there just is too much going on in Northport. They should put this on the shelf, get their house in order, and come back to everybody in a year. That would be my viewpoint, and someone could tell me I'm crazy, but I don't know how the city, if they implement this and retain it, how they're going to effectively start spending it quickly enough. There's a lot going on in Northport, and there's a lot of needs, and what you outlined is an enormous shift and an enormous responsibility, and I don't see it. But someone could tell me I'm nuts, I'm missing something.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is the type of debate we'd like to have. So they currently charge transportation fees, and as Alex said, and Todd, as you know, that's limited in how they can only be used for road capacity.
Right.
So if they're going through a process of also updating their impact fees, because they haven't updated them in a decade, so they're behind in the cost, and then two, to be able to switch to this to allow more flexibility. So if they shelved it and said come back in a year, the transportation fees would continue to be charged and collected. So I'm trying to want to get your thought and input on the shelving part of it, on that.
Sure. So if they were just switching to a mobility fee collection, which would enable Sarasota County to spend it on mobility improvements, then that's one thing. But if they are doing this in the context of subsequently making decisions about, you know, how to prioritize and spend the collected mobility fees, you know,
Okay.
I would express great reservations at this moment in Northport's.
So I mean, that's okay. I mean, you're saying that if you know, there's a lot going on. There's new people. There's a new city manager, staff. There's some staff shortage, and so you think from a logistics standpoint within the city, you know, no one's at fault here, but that they just may not be able to manage this new type of plan to get it going. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's my overall comment.
Okay, that's good input.
And yeah, and it is a complex topic because the city has some agreements also. There is a significant agreement with Welland Park, for instance. The city has also some, I think they have also another agreement with the county. So yeah, so it is a topic for further discussion. You know, it's not. I think we are not qualified to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Todd, number one, I heard you say, and I think we like mobility fees because of the flexibility. So it's not that, it's just, I hear you on the other aspects. And I'll incorporate that in the report. No one's going to be named individually, right?
No,
but,
I would stand up and say it. It's just,
yeah.
You know, it's outside observation, but maybe it's a question. If there was someone there who really, you gotta have, you gotta have great, strong leadership in a complex area that, you know, it's an enormous budget number.
Right. Get them collected, make sure they're booked correctly, and then if, let's say, they adopt Alex's plan, well, where do you start first? And that is a big deal. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, those are decisions because we will provide the improvements, but I understand somebody later has to make decisions on what's going to be funded and how that's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other inputs, thoughts? Nick, I see you coming in.
Yes, so I absolutely agree with the mobility fee structure compared to the transportation fee. It allows a lot more uses than the other. I agree with what Todd is stating as well, but if the county is maintaining it, are they then choosing the projects that the mobility fees are going to be used for? So, and then that kind of takes away from what all of this is.
Okay, I'm going to go way beyond my pay grade on this and go from my recollection with the cities that we worked with. To avoid somewhat what Todd mentioned was expertise, knowledge, and having staff within the cities. I believe that, I recall this specifically with the city of Venice, is the county would manage the books of the impact fees. They're within the city, they're charged, but they're in our bank account. And just to save the cities from having that staff person and that cost. And it's, you know, economies of scale. However, some of the cities would say, well, wait a second, you're holding our money. Can you then, as a county, dictate where that goes? And sometimes that was a gray area. Normally, I looked at it, and this is me speaking, not the prior county commission, was that if the money was collected within the city for a house in a city, that should go back into that city. However, sometimes you had infrastructure issues, road issues that were close to the city that house impacted. And so there was kind of a give and take a little bit, because if the money had to be given back to the city, or could the county have a say in it? And that's where sometimes there was a rift. So, you know, I don't know, I believe there's always an interlocal agreement that lays all that out, how that happens if the county's collecting them or holding them. Now, the city of Northport, if you just look at the map that Alex has up there, there's not a lot of those crisscross situations where you have a lot of county roads within the city. And so that may alleviate some of the problem that I just described. And I just always remember it with the city of Venice being an issue. That's our money, give it back to us. We want to do it on a road here. And the county's saying, well, we think it'd be better allocated over here. Don't quote me on that, but that's kind of, I remember some of those problems. And I think it's resolved through an interlocal agreement. Or if the city itself has the staff and they deal with it, you know, that I think that's an answer we need to get from the city and not rely on me on my recollection on how it went.
Hey, Charles, John Lazinski, can I add a little bit to this?
But please pull me out of this this carpet.
One, I just want to concur with everybody that I like the idea of mobility fees, but I will say even in the last 18 months with the staff chain challenges they've had in Northport staff administers things significantly quicker than the county. I have been working on 2 projects that are of vital interest to the county commission for the last year. We have gotten basically as far as having 3 meetings just to have a response and something that needs to be done in a timely manner takes a long time. Obviously, the city of Northport is but one of a number of communities and a number of areas in the county. So if we are thinking the money is decisions for expenses of money in a timely fashion in Northport for fees collected in Northport are going to have a higher priority than other places in the county, it's not going to happen at all. And, you know, I'm not going to go into the details of what I've been working on, but quite frankly, the 2 things I've been working on, I would have thought we would have had not only written agreements in place 6 months ago, we would be starting the design and construction of these. And I'm telling you, it's not going to happen during my career. I will bet in 10 years, we're still doing the same thing we are today. So my recommendation is if Northport's going to go this way, which I believe they should, I believe the commission and leadership need to hire somebody that's going to be a strong leader to implement these programs. I wouldn't wait another year or 2 years to start collecting the fees. Find that right person to manage it, because nobody's going to pay attention to Northport's needs for these type of improvements better than the city of Northport is.
Okay, great. That's a great recommendation, because these fees are going to be charged. So
Yeah.
let's, you know, and to me,
You could put my name on that one. I would be,
but
no, because
they're impact fees, but you know, they're meant to deal with impact.
Their impact fees. Let's get the improvements out there that are going to benefit everybody.
You got it. Versus sitting in a bank account for 3 to 5 years. Gotcha.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree with what John was saying there. So that's something that we don't want it to go to the county level if it doesn't need to. But if it's going to take the city years to build that staff to do it, it then falls back to what Todd said. So it's harder to do that piece. If they make it a priority, it will help. As far as John's comments from the last meeting that we had, was that addressed for the special districting?
Can you explain that question a little bit more?
So our last conversation about this piece, there were some questions about the payback for the special districting, and this would lower the amount collected, and then that would affect your guys' bottom line. So.
Well, with these numbers they do include all the costs that the West Village Improvement District, which I'm the chairman of, have or will incur in the extension of those arterials out in the Welland Park area. So the cost as well as the recapture on impact fees are included in here. The most important thing is, since the costs are in the numbers citywide aren't getting skewed lower because of the free roads. You know, now,
So
do they?
I know that was a concern.
In our area, they don't show all the, I'll call, trails and other mobility type of things that we're doing. But, you know, that's okay. I mean, for an overall backbone system that services the city in its entirety, this covers it pretty darn well.
Okay.
So just to summarize, and I think what you've answered it, but you like this proposal better than the one we looked at a month or so ago?
Yes, because the one a month or so ago did not include the costs for building
Right.
all those arterials. So it was artificially skewing numbers,
Correct.
which shouldn't have been the case.
Okay.
Now, I do have one question on the numbers, and because I'm kind of a numbers guy. I'm on cost scenario 1. On the bottom, it's got 2.85 million for intersection improvements.
Yeah. Those are not your intersections. Those are intersections within the other part of the city. You guys had some budget to improve intersections. Most of those intersections are on US 41, I believe, right?
Yeah, no, I understand that. But are these big intersections? Because quite frankly, some of our intersections, one intersection's costing close to that $2.8 million number. So I'm just, are these like neighborhood intersections? That number seems low to me, that's all.
Yeah, these are obviously these are intersections within the city, and we are not building. It's not to build the whole intersection. It's just to improve the intersection, to add some capacity to certain intersections that we identified that they will have some level of service issues for certain approaches. So those are not big reconstruction of intersections. These are just improvements, certain improvements to improve capacity, and in many cases just for one or two approaches, not for the whole intersection. And that is approximate cost, obviously, for those projects, because costing those projects at this point is, is not an useful exercise, because
No, that's fine. I just, you answered my question.
Yeah, okay. John, could you send me, if you could, I will send you an email asking you for this information, but I wanted to know the number of units that fall within the agreement that you have with the city. I would like the size of all land uses that fall within that agreement. So the number of units, the square footage.
We're approved to up to 22,000 units. 16,500 are approved by the city outside of what was developed initially as Renaissance and Grand Paradiso. I believe there's 1,935-ish units in Grand Paradiso. I think right about 2,000 units in Island Walk. Then the rest of what's in the city is approved up to 16.5. So we're going to be under 20, but there's a theoretical number that we can get up to 22.5.
Okay, so yeah, we just for an exercise, an internal exercise, we would like to know the number of units and the square footage that falls within the agreement. And if you give us a range, that's fine. Ranges from, up to certain, from this number up to certain number, that will be fine.
Yeah, why'd you just have the city give us our VDPP? a village design pattern book that covers the whole development, and that should set forth everything you need in it.
Yeah, I mean, we got numbers. Actually, we got, you know, the study that you provided from Stantec that had actually the land uses, and we actually put all those land uses in the model and everything.
Yeah.
But it seems that not everything falls within the agreement. It seems that there were some units, some
Right.
land
The
uses.
Village A and Village B did not fall in the agreement. And before that, there was old VDPPs for that. So you just have to get those two booklets from the city. Quite frankly, I don't even have the old VDPPs for villages A and B. That's why I'm sending it back, unfortunately, to the city.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Any other input? Well, thanks, guys. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, I did a little report from the last meeting. I'll update it with what I learned today. If in the interim something pops in that you think's a huge emergency, let us know. That I'll communicate that to the city commission, and then obviously you're welcome to come to the public meeting and give your input there. And really appreciate it. And Alex, anything else? Any other? We're right at an hour, which is great, and appreciate the participation.
No, everything is fine. I don't have anything else. So thanks everybody for coming, for attending the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Bill, you got us closing out, or?
Yes, sir. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for your input. Charles, Alex, thank you for your presentations. Like I said earlier, this meeting has been recorded. So as soon as that recording is made available to us, we will have it up and posted on social media. If you were only able to join maybe halfway through the meeting, you know, we'll have that up so you can view the whole thing. And it will also be on our website. So again, thank you everybody for joining, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Yes, stay dry.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.